let's just start with what is permaculture?
Permaculture is a conversation that could take a while, but most succinctly, it's a ethical design science to create sustainable human environments.
Nice.
And mostly it's about starting with local food and doing it in a way that is a positive effect on the environment instead of a negative effect.
And why bring people? Why do we have to gather as a community to make this happen?
Because you can't do it alone, and as they say, many hands make light work.
That's
And
very true.
It's really all about as local as you can be, and the only way we're going to solve our problems is together. So we need to figure out a way to work together and do it, because no one's coming to save us.
Yeah, I heard you on another podcast, and you said something that was great. You were like, you realized nobody else was doing this, so you just started it, right?
Yeah, everyone's always like, oh, that's amazing, we should do that. And it's like, yeah, we should do this, and the only way to do it is to just do it.
Yeah.
There's no magic formula. I've never done anything like this before. I've never started a nonprofit, so I knew it was important, and I've been putting it off for years, and I finally said, let's do it. And you learn along the way, and like there's a great quote, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Love that. So how did it evolve from founding Permaculture Fair Oaks to this event right here? What was the catalyst for this?
Mostly my good friend Tom. Shout out to Tom Beauchamp from The Weekender. So we've been working together and hanging out, and he had an art wall project he was doing on a very busy lot in Fair Oaks. It was going to be a rotating mural. And he said, hey, we got all this land. Do you want to do something? And I'm like, I don't know what we can do there, because one, the property's for sale, and then I had this kind of epiphany. I'm like, oh, there's these special pots that the nursery industry uses where you can grow trees in the ground, and then in a couple of years you can dig them up and sell them or put them in above ground pots. And I'm like, we could do that, because even though the property's been for sale for 10 years, it's most likely not going to sell, but you never know. So we can do a demonstration, and basically a portable food forest demonstration. And the lot gets like 25,000 cars by it every day, one way. So it's an amazing opportunity to raise awareness for what I think is the best system to feed ourselves.
And when is all this going to... I see these wonderful plants here, and we'll find out what about these, but when are the plants that you got, and where did you get the plants, and when are they going in the ground?
We've been able to get some donations from a couple different organizations and businesses, and we have a big planting party on May 17th for the Big Day of Service, which is a very amazing local event where there's up to 70 community projects going on that day. And so basically from now till then, we're going to be getting the irrigation in. Most of the trees are going in. And then on that day, we're going to be doing a couple trees and a lot of finished planting. And basically after the 17th, it's done and, ready to party, I guess.
So who takes care of it? How's maintenance?
Yeah, it's going to be just the community members of Permaculture Fair Oaks. We're just all pitch in and make sure someone's paying attention, that everything's getting watered and everything needs basic care. But it's basically going to be a model for, can we replicate this in areas that isn't in someone's backyard? So there's potential for vandalism, there's potential for issues to come up. And so it's going to be a lesson for us as well as a demonstration to see what do we need to change, and is that what working and what isn't working. So
awesome. And we had this question, what happens with the food? Who's going to grab the food, and where does that go?
We're definitely going to be harvesting the food, and primarily it's going to be going to the local food bank.
Right on.
And basically people in need. And that's I think it's amazing that the Fair Oaks and Orangevale Food Bank has a farm connected to it, because that's a huge missing connection in a lot of food banks. So they're already dialed into what they need. They know they need to be growing food. But in the suburbs, you typically don't have huge pieces of land where you can have conventional farms. But what you can do is have distributed farms through people's yards and through a network of volunteers and community members that want to take responsibility for feeding their community.
So if somebody had land, an acre, half acre, space, they wanted to do something with it, could you help them turn that into a food forest?
Yeah, we definitely can.
Is that kind of what you do?
Pretty much, yeah. That's what we're all about. It's getting more land in production locally, and particularly with food forest systems, and We got plenty of people who desperately want opportunities to learn more and get their hands dirty. And, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty about what people are going to be doing with their livelihoods. And there's plenty of work for whoever needs it. We just got to redirect the capital to positive action, I think.
Absolutely. And I think you hit it before, is that we can't do it by ourselves. If I wanted to do a garden in a food forest, I wouldn't know where to start. But if you have a plan or can help me and bring other people from the community in to make it happen, now we're talking, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And isn't this part of a larger hub concept that the city or the county has for food production hubs? And it's all kind of interconnected there, where we're just trying to grow enough food for everybody in the community to have, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of, depending on where you fall on the cynicism or optimist side of things. I mean, you could say that, does government really want self-reliant citizens? Or they say they do, so we're going to take them at their word and
exactly.
Say, put your money where your mouth is. And we need to feed ourselves, and this is the best way that we think to do it. So we'd love to get your resources that are generally going for wasteful things to more practical, positive things.
So this is food security for the community.
Definitely.
Right on. And how does that tie into resiliency?
Well, you can make a lot better decisions for yourself if you know you're not going to starve. It's basic survival, but I think we miss that a lot because we just go, well, I can just go to the store. But okay, what if the store's not there? What if there's no food there? What if the food's really expensive and full of chemicals? So you can go out to your backyard or to your community garden and say, wow, look I got all this food. I'm going to feed myself. So then what do I really want to do with my actions, and how do I want to decide and participate in this community?
Right on. And the plants that you're putting in the ground, the food, how much of that is like California native versus not?
I mean, for me, I don't get hung up on if it's native or not, because it's largely a subjective thing.
Okay.
How far back in time do you want to go? Like 500 years, 2,000 years? At one point, all the continents were connected. So I really focus on well-adapted, and mostly in this climate, that means really hot and dry summers and really cool and wet winters. So a lot of the times the land has been so damaged that what has been here historically for the past 100 years couldn't even get established, because you need to bring in outside help. So the way I look at myself and the way I look at a lot of the pioneering species, I don't think we're going to solve it in my lifetime, but I hope is that I can set up enough of a system so the more sophisticated plants can come in and take root.
Nice. And when you plant, my understanding is there are companion plants, things that are working with each other, right? It's not like a monocrop of things.
No, I mean, that's what the whole food forest system is about. It's a multi-layers of supporting systems that's how it grows in nature. And so that's how it can sustain itself. So you can have ground cover that protects the soil. You never want bare soil. You have herbs and shrubs and taller trees and overstory trees, and they can all be food plants. They could all be pollinator plants. It all depends on what you're trying to do in that system.
Wonderful. And this, over time, will regenerate that land, right?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, after, say, 3 to 5 years, you can have a system that starts to take care of itself, and you only need to get involved minimally. And that's the amazing thing about particularly perennial systems, is eventually, once they're established and producing, they produce more than you can possibly use and more than you need. So that's really the only way you can get into creating a surplus and creating sustainability and regenerative systems, is to go to perennial systems. So fruit trees, bushes, plants that come back on their own each year, things that you don't have to plant seed and grow. And annuals can create a lot of food, but if you don't plant them the next year, they're not going to grow.
Right. Nice. Eric Sider with Permaculture Fair Oaks, telling us all about what's going on here. Thank you so much for making this happen.
Thank you for having me.